Welcome everyone to the Panos Marketing March webinar. As you know, today's theme is how we can prepare for the big Google Analytics shift to GA4. Woo! Confetti falls down. My name is Lauren Irish. I work in the Client Services Department as a project manager. I work closely with various financial institutions, and all of which are being affected by Google's ever-changing philosophies and digital upgrades. But fear not, we've got a dedicated team here at Panos Marketing, Mel Coleman and Abby Fitzgerald, who are going to help reduce our fears and kind of clarify what's going on in the digital space. So quickly, I'll let them introduce themselves and they can go ahead and get started.
All right. Hi, I am Mel Coleman. I'm the Director of Strategy and Media here at Panos. I have been with the agency for 4 years now, which is crazy. It's gone by very fast, and really crazy passionate about all things data, and really try to be an advocate for all of our clients around making sure they understand their data, they understand and can trust what's happening to ensure that your marketing efforts are being properly supported by proof that things are working or not. And so I am a former bank marketer, and just am really excited for this topic today, as I know Abby is as well.
I sure am. So I'm Abby Fitzgerald. I'm a senior SEO strategist here at Panos. Been here for just about 2 years, maybe. Also a previous bank marketer as well. So coming in with that lens, understanding what you guys' goals are and how they can be impacted from the lens of search engine optimization and also from the lens of user experience on your website. So it also kind of dives into the aspect of data and how your website works and how that data is going to be collected, which leads us to our super awesome topic today of GA4 and the changes, limitations, and growth that's going to come from this platform.
Awesome. Thank you, Abby and Mel. To kick us off, Mel, can you walk us through what's going on with Universal Analytics and GA4 and what's the current situation?
Yeah. So first, let's start with a little bit of background. So Google Analytics is owned by Google. No surprise there, but really the Google Analytics suite of products are focused upon the data around the performance of your website. So it doesn't impact how you're viewed out in the world. Instead, it's just focused on you being able to understand how people engage with your website individually. They first launched Universal Analytics, which is the platform we've all come to know and love. They launched it back in 2005. And so apart from some minor updates to that platform, it's been largely the same, which is why this feels so incredibly scary and challenging and uncomfortable, is that we have been working with this platform for almost 20 years. Now, when we talk about GA4, it is not an update to Universal Analytics. They're not at all the same. They just happen to be within the same Google Analytics kind of suite. So when we talk about Universal Analytics, which Google decided to randomly rename to GA3, we'll still be referring to it as Universal Analytics here for clarity. But GA4 is meant to and is replacing Universal Analytics. And that's happening this year. So in October of 2020, Google announced this GA4 and they were like, this is going to be great. It's going to be everything you ever want. It's the future of analytics. It's not. It's not the future of analytics. It's just a different way to be looking at things. And it's changed almost every week since it was launched. And it still continues to change. Unfortunately, they did announce the official sunset date of Universal Analytics, and that's happening on technically June 30th of 2023 this year, meaning July 1 of this year, your Universal Analytics property will no longer accept data. So let's just say that you look at your analytics every single day. On July 1, it will report no traffic. You'll see no traffic, no sessions, no page views, no bounce rate, you'll see nothing. And then that'll be it. So in order for you to actually get anything, you have to use GA4. So regardless of your feelings about it, Abby and I have many, and we'll dive into those a little bit here. Regardless of your feelings and your frustrations and your hesitations, we really can't hold off any longer. This is the time where you need to give yourself some kind of time, some duplicity in understanding that you have to have GA4. And this is still, by and large, the best option for most people. Even if it's not the free version of GA4, and I think Abby will talk a little bit about that. Even if it's not the free version of GA4, it's still, this is going to be the best option for a lot of you. And it's still the one that, despite our own misgivings and a lot of the research that we've been doing, it's still the one that we're recommending right now for all of our clients.
Awesome. Thanks, Mel. Now that we understand that there are two different platforms, and it seems like there's been a lot of chaos around this shift, Abby, tell us what this means for our clients and financial institutions and anyone that could be affected. And why are we hearing so many people that, well, why are we hearing from so many people that they're anxious about it?
Yeah. So simply put, the anxiety within this shift is most likely stemming from the fact that it's new. It's scary to have to learn this whole entire new platform. It's a whole entire just learning curve for everybody. So trying to do your normal day-to-day work and then also be learning a brand new platform with brand new metrics, brand new KPIs that you have to now understand, and maybe having to teach that to your team or teach that to your C-suite. That's a lot. That's super overwhelming. So right in itself, a new platform is scary. Now, we always say it, we love Google so much. On top of it being a new platform, it has a lot of new functionality. So different platform, UA, GA4, they are not the same. They do not represent themselves as the same. And some of the ways that we see those differences right off the bat is in universal analytics. You have your account, your property, and your views. And inside those views, you have maybe your main view, and then you have your IP filtered views of your internal IPs and Panos internal IPs. GA4 doesn't have that. GA4, you've got your account, you've got your property. You do not have all of the fun little widgets that you used to have that lived inside the view. So you have to fully understand that you need to learn this new platform and understand what now lives under the property and how you're going to go forward with excluding IPs and going through that process, because it's completely different than it once was. Along with that, there's also a lot of differences in the dimensions and metrics. So, for example, what once was a unique page view, there's no such thing as a unique page view in GA4. It is just views. I say views, it's not even page views, it's just called a view. So there's a lot of naming convention changes where things are located in the platform is completely different. And because of these differences in those metrics and dimensions, as a company and as a bank, you now have to understand you have new KPIs. What once was focused on, oh, this is our bounce rate isn't a metric anymore. So we have to understand that we need to move into a different direction of what are we looking at? What is the goal of reviewing our data? Because that whole entire topic has totally changed. But overall, yes, it is scary. It's overwhelming to see these changes come through, but it's really just a learning curve. It's just going to take time for everyone to become comfortable with the platform and understand that yes, there are limitations, and what you once saw in your reporting for universal analytics, you are not going to be seeing that anymore. And you just kind of have to accept, grin and bear it, and move forward. But it really is, like I said, that learning curve of showing everybody within your company, within your C-suite, whoever you have to speak to, that things are changing. The world is changing, and the way that we're analyzing sites is also changing. So I really do feel like that's where a majority of that anxiety is coming from. But all is well. We're here to help you guys through.
I will say that's been my number one is I think Abby's heard me say this every single month for the past 2 years now, is I'm like, why did it change again? Why? I was just getting used to that. Where did this go? Why don't I have it? So it is kind of the people who have been in universal analytics for so long. It's just hard because you don't want to, because it's comfortable and it's familiar. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it is just a change. So some of us just need to get used to the change.
Which isn't fun, but we gotta.
I was going to say, yikes, for me, who's not in, Universal Analytics and GA4 every day. Overwhelming from someone from my end. But knowing that, what would be someone's first step, or how would they get started in implementing this new GA4 platform? Is it as simple as flipping a switch, or is there more to it?
Yeah, so as nice as it would be to say, yeah, simple switch, you can press one thing, toggle it, and you're good. It's not, unfortunately. And yet again, Google's our favorite, and they're not exactly forthcoming with very clear instructions on how you need to set up these accounts. So overall, the setup is technically relatively simple. If you're already comfortable with Universal Analytics and you're comfortable with Google Tag Manager, and you have a general familiarity with GA4, then yeah, setup's fine. But if you're not immersed in these platforms every single day, it's not exactly the most simple setup. Google does offer what they consider a migration tool and an account setup assistant. Just if you guys take anything away from this call, do not use those features. They do not set up your account. Well, I say that in quotations. They do not set up your account to collect data. When you use that migration tool or when you use that assistant setup, all it is doing is setting up the account in the sense that this is your property, this is what's going into it, this is your domain. Great, but you're not sending any data in. The only way to send data into your analytics account is via either a hard code on your website that you would need to have a web team put in there, or via Google Tag Manager. We usually utilize Google Tag Manager because it's a product that Google has created. They talk really well with each other. So we go through and we do a setup via Google Tag Manager with some code saying, hey, this is my site, take some data, throw it in there. But if you're just using those migration tools, you will not have any data. It will seem like your account set up and you're gonna have a huge red flag saying, no data is being transferred into this account in the last 48 hours, which is really stressful. You think, okay, I've done it. I've done that button, I set it up. You sure haven't. We've seen this really, unfortunately, across the board with clients that have set up their GA4 accounts, and then I'll go into it and I say, I have horrible news. You have only set up the account. You have not set up the transference of data. So, like I say, the setup is technically simple if you are comfortable with these platforms. Yeah. I highly recommend that if you are to do your own setup, that's fine. If you're comfortable with these platforms, use Google Tag Manager. And within Google Tag Manager, I mean, we're going to talk about our limitations within the platform. But with Google Tag Manager, we have found a very fun way in order to review events. So inside GA4 with the normal basic setup, you get basic events. You get your scrolls, your page views, maybe some clicks. But to us, that's not enough. We really wanted to know, okay, great, someone's clicking. Where are they clicking? Why are they clicking? How are they clicking? Where are they on the site? So we go in on the back end inside Google Tag Manager and we pull a lot of the code from the back end side of your website to say exactly, was it a button that they clicked on? Was it a ghost button? Was it just a normal link? So there's a lot that really does need to go into the setup of these GA4 accounts that is so much more than just a simple, yeah, migrate, do it. We love to see it. It really is something that you need to take the time and go through each and every step in order for that data to come through and be valuable to you.
And around setup too, because Abby's obviously completely accurate there, is when you're trying to set up an account and when you're trying to talk about collecting data, it's similar to when you were looking at Universal Analytics and you'd have to have a question in mind. What are you trying to understand? What are you trying to solve for? What is the reason you went into analytics that day? Because you don't just go in to poke around, you go in to be like, how's it performing? What's performing well? What's not performing well? How do I know it's performing well? What do I need to look at? You have to take those same kinds of questions when you're talking about tagging a site and setting up data to then be collected. So when we're setting up, it's called a regex lookup table within Tag Manager. We were really thinking of our clients in the way that things come through and trying to solve for the questions that they most commonly ask us. Like, great, they clicked on that apply now button. Where? And that's not, and this is getting into some of the limitations that we'll talk about, but that's not easily answered by GA4. So you really try to, like, when you can set up an analytics account from scratch, from the setup, and you get clean and you can do it all yourself, take the time to do it right. Otherwise, it's the garbage in, garbage out.
Yep.
So as clearly you guys know so much about it, I want to say give me your honest opinions, but I feel like this whole time you guys are honest all along. What would be like your initial feedback, just knowing what you know about GA4? How do you guys feel about it being in everyone's Universal Analytics accounts and GA4 accounts every day? If you had to give everyone the God's honest truth, what would it be?
So it's
Buckle
really, I know, it's really, and I can't stress this enough. Like sometimes I joke that we are like therapists to our clients. We'll get on the phone and they'll talk about their frustrations. It is equally as validating when we get on the phone with another client and they're like, I'm frustrated with Google. I'm like, same. And it's because when we launched GA4 for ourselves, for the Panos side, because before we talk to clients about anything, we try to test it on ourselves first. And so I was like, all right, GA4, we're going to test it on Panos. So I launched it back in January, February of 2021, and it has been changing truly every single week. And there's been no communication from Google around those changes. So, for example, when GA4 first launched, they're like, sessions aren't going to exist here. This is not going to be session-based. We're not going to group anything in any kind of way. It's all going to be based around events, and page views are going to be events, which is still a thing. But because the entire marketing universe is like, what are you doing with my sessions? I need sessions. This is how I base and understand my business and repeat rate. And so many factors go into what is a session. I need to be able to group it. Google brought it back. And we've seen that with other KPIs and other events that come through where they're like, no, you can't do that here. That's not what this platform is. And then they'll roll back those changes. They've also done things like, and Abby, I'm stealing your thunder a little bit here, but they're like, oh yeah, you can keep your data for forever, just like you could in UA. And then they quietly were like, just kidding. No, you can't. So the only reason that we've even found these changes and we've heard of these changes is that we are absolutely passionate nerds about this. We go into Reddit threads, we go into LinkedIn forums. We're deep into every technical marketer around the world trying to find things. Like I'm going to shout out Simo Ahava.
Good.
He is an incredible technical marketer. So Simo space Ahava, Ahava. Simo Ahava, absolutely incredible. And every technical marketer that we have found out there around collecting data and understanding these platforms and how to integrate them with each other, they're all struggling to learn it. They're all struggling to keep up with it as well. So it's not just that it's a learning curve for everyday marketers, it's a learning curve for the industry of marketing as a whole. And I think that there's an extra layer on top of that because as financial marketers, we can't use a lot of the e-commerce features that are native to GA4. And there's been a push from Google to say, well, it should all be this base. And it's like, there's so many other industries that are not e-com and cannot benefit from those. So though we've come up with ways and it's become, as more marketers are really fighting against Google to make these changes, to make it a more inclusive platform, it's just frustrating because every time we go in, especially the whole media team, we sit in a bullpen, but we're all right next to each other. But somebody will log in and be like, there's been another change. And everyone's like, what is it today? So that is by far the number one frustration. Coupled with the fact that we use a bunch of other Google products like Looker Studio, which Abby will talk about in a bit, but GA4, Google products right now don't play well with GA4, with the one exception of Tag Manager. And there's just that one. But even Google representatives have told us like, oh, we don't view it as that. Nope, there's no solution for that yet. So it's hard. It is a really hard learning process. And the fact that we're forced into it doesn't feel fair to me, because I don't like that our clients don't always have the time and the energy and the resources to be able to spend learning this and relearning it every week. That it's really, really frustrating. And I really feel for everybody diving into this, but we are gung-ho and saying, we're going to be with you and we're going to kind of figure it out together. So that's my honest opinion. Sorry, Abby.
No, that was beautiful. And I think kind of what Mel is touching upon here, and just in general, is it's not technically, GA4 isn't technically a bad platform or it's some horrible thing. It's fine. Are there things that I would categorize as not my favorite in association with GA4? Yeah, that list is a little bit long. But it's something that in time, yet again, with that learning curve, maybe once Google decides what the platform is going to be and sticks with it, then great, then we can really start to understand. But there definitely are some things that have thrown a wrench in our plans. One of those things being, well, kind of to start first, is GA4 is not as advanced as Universal Analytics. So if anyone's comfortable with Universal Analytics and is familiar with the platform, you go in there and you are basically steamrolled with information. You have a huge sidebar with parts and parts and parts, and the charts are just never ending. And some may say there was too much information in UA. So then GA4 is just kind of the exact opposite, whereas you are given high level data. You are given just a chart that we're going to get into the customizable aspects of it in a minute, but you're just giving a very basic chart and basic information, and you can't go through and add in all of the advanced filters on your secondary dimensions and really get into that nitty gritty on the base report section. You just physically cannot do that anymore. So from that, you now have to get comfortable with the other half of the platform called explorations, or the explore tab, where you're making your own charts and you're adding in your own filters and dimensions. And even at that, and Mel and I, we've played in this a lot, and even in these tabs, and even though we're in it every day, it's still a lot to understand, and it's a fully new platform to learn. But that definitely has been a fun learning curve, is the fact that you can't get the same data that you could inside Universal Analytics, and you can't filter down the same way that you could just on these basic reports. Something else that Mel kind of talked upon that for us has been one of the largest concerns is the data retention. Data retention is subpar at best. As Mel said, this wasn't something that Google announced a few years ago when GA4 was launched. This was something that was brought up maybe 6 months ago, maybe 5 months ago, is the fact that GA4 will only retain your event-based data for a maximum of 14 months. And just kind of a quick side note, that is preset to 2 months. In everybody's GA4 accounts, when you set up your account, you are preset to a 2-month data retention. You have to go in and say, no, I want to keep this data for 14 months because that's the maximum. But that causes huge concerns. Universal Analytics, you could go back to, if you set up in 2005, you can go back to 2005 and really review all that data. Granted, is that a little bit too much to know? Probably, but only being able to see 14 months, just a little over a year, and you want to go back and see how a campaign performed that you ran a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, bummer, you can't. So that becomes a really major concern for us in reporting and really understanding how have we grown if we can't review where we once were. Another part of that, kind of a double-edged sword of this data retention, is a limit on data quotas and how much data you're even allowed to see. So within this is mainly directly impacting our reporting features, and a lot of our clients, we have monthly reporting calls on website progress or digital campaigns. With GA4, there is a limitation on how much data we can even show in these reports. We can have a maximum of, it's usually 1 to 2 charts. And that could be say you have an event chart saying where an event happened, what it was called, and what landing page it was on. Very simple report. If I go in and view that, and Mel goes in and views that, and then a client is viewing it at the same time, data shuts off, chart goes blank. And you cannot get that data back for at least another hour. Sometimes it takes 24 hours. So that becomes a huge issue in itself of how am I supposed to explain the data of what's happening on the site and what's happening from these campaigns if you're not even allowed to see that data? If they've set that quota of, nope, you've seen too much, now you can't go back to that. So there's a lot of roadblocks that have come with this platform and transferring the data inside Looker Studio. Some other things that are impacting that is if you have too many filters, if you are getting very granular on the types of data you like to see, you're going to max out on your quotas way faster than you would ever anticipate. Just a little sidebar, I was in there yesterday creating one of the most simple reports that you can create, just a blank statement, what happened in the past year on my website. And within the first 10 minutes, I blanked out on every single chart on the page and had to come back within the next hour in order to continue working on the report and continue reviewing the report. So that in itself is very overwhelming. How are you supposed to know how you're doing if you're not allowed to access your data? So that has really become a really big project for Mel, Kaylin, and I, is understanding how are we going to get this data to our clients in a way that is easily digestible, but also in a sense, cost acceptive. We don't want to be cost prohibitive because, you know, everyone comes from a different banking background on how much you can even put forth to a marketing platform. So overall, I know Mel, I can see you ready to talk there. We have 3 general reporting options that we're going to be bringing forth to our clients. And reporting option 1, due to these quota limitations and retaining limitations, is option 1, your campaign reports, very high level when it comes to what's happening on your site. You'll maybe get a chart or 2. That way we don't max out, because if you have 5 campaigns running, there's only so much that we could show you within a period of time. Mel, do you want to jump in real quick?
I do want to jump in.
Okay.
Because really, I mean, I think we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves there. So I'd rather really focus on, you know, why are we even talking about data visualization? Mm-hmm. And that's because the Explore feature within GA4 doesn't have a, the export feature doesn't work consistently. Mm-hmm. And there's a limitation to 1 chart per page. So we found that you have to go to a data visualization tool like Looker Studio, because otherwise it is, you're going to find that a lot of the reports that you want to do, such as even using a secondary dimension, that's something that needs to happen in a visualization tool.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for bringing that in there. Got a little ahead of myself. Just so excited.
Okay, I know we're excited. We're excited, but they're still, you know, it's not all doom and gloom though. So which is
definitely not all doom and gloom. And then there's also this topic that we have really kind of had to dive into in regards to data warehouse solutions. Of if you can't contain all of your data inside GA4, where are you going to put it? Where are you going to house this data? How are we going to get around these limitations inside these data visualizations? And that, for the most part, has come out to the answer of you need someone to be a warehouse for all of your data. So there are a lot of overarching limitations that come from this platform. And we're going to get into the good stuff. I promise there are good things about this platform. But it's really just something that everyone needs to be fully aware of, is Universal Analytics and GA4, they're not even friends. They're not even associates. They are totally different. They are new. It's a new platform with new limitations. And it's going to be, yet again, that learning curve of understanding what is your priority at your institution. Is it looking back at historic data, or is it solely looking forward? How do you want that to be visualized in reports? How do you want to be able to review how a campaign has performed? And these are some tough conversations that have had to come from GA4 and are still going to be coming in the future to make sure that everyone's on the same page as to where this platform is going and where it can take you.
Wow, you guys are painting quite the picture of GA4. And I mean, like you said, it's not all negatives. Like, you know, full transparency, we'll tell you guys what we're seeing and we'll tell you how we're feeling, but there are some things that we can look forward to, right? Like, please tell me there's light at the end of the tunnel.
There is, for sure. Promise. Because again, a lot of this is we're talking about as a learning curve. So we're not going to feel this way in 5 months. We're not going to feel this way in 3 months. Like when this is ready to kick off, I really think that, we kind of have to cut cords with UA and just get familiar, just force yourself, kind of throw yourself into the deep end, right? Mm-hmm. Jump in and it's going to be fine. We're all going to realize that we can swim and it's okay. And really, some of the positives that we're kind of talking about is UA does allow for what we call analysis paralysis, where you're looking at way too much data and so much of it doesn't matter. So much of it is not applicable and is going to get you sidetracked into understanding really, is it important to know exactly the percentage of mobile to desktop to tablet in one town within your entire market? No, you probably don't need to know that. So why is there a report that allows you to do so? So really what we do like about GA4 is that there's more streamlined, basic, high-level reports focused on KPIs that actually matter. So Google has already indicated, yeah, it's gonna be really easy to set up conversions, like super simple. You literally toggle it. Very simple to set up a conversion. And then you can actually understand when and where a conversion is happening. And you're seeing really the basic high-level KPIs, which is great. Because especially for everyday marketers, those who maybe don't even have any experience with universal analytics, this could be really streamlined, really simple to jump into. And then you can start to see the gaps and ask questions. And that's when you can get into advanced reporting. Mm-hmm. And that's those more advanced reporting requests. That's where you can play in the Explore feature. And you can then also look at external data visualization tools like a Looker Studio, which is free. Mm-hmm. But really the fact that the whole platform is shifted to be more conversion focused, we love, right? We all know impressions don't keep the lights on, page views don't keep the lights on. So the best thing that we can do is really make sure that we're focused on what conversions are happening, what meaningful actions are being taken on the website. And GA4 has made that very simple, very streamlined for your everyday marketer to do once it's all set up properly from a data collection standpoint.
And I think kind of to trail on that, like if anyone here has been on the GA4 training calls with me, you know that I have said universal analytics was a dump of data, basically. Like Mel said, analysis paralysis, you just get everything. Every ounce of data you physically could have, you've got it. Whereas GA4 is much more focused on, great, users got to your site, then what? What are they doing? How are they interacting? How are they getting to point A to point B and converting? Because obviously that's the most important aspect of your site as a whole is how are we getting these users to convert and become customers or become members, whatever the situation may be, how are you getting them? How are you leading them down that path? And GA4 with these basic reports really has given you the ability to see that process quite simply. And on top of that, there are a lot of AI insights inside GA4 that we didn't see in UA. Basically, with AI in the background, I know there's been a lot of chats about AI and everything surrounding that. But in back end of Google Analytics 4, there is an algorithm that's reading and analyzing all of the data inside your platform, and it's digesting that data, and it's going to tell you, and it's going to identify trends. So if you go to your homepage on GA4, if you scroll down, there's a section that's just called Insights, and it's going to give you high-level data of when the most traffic came, where it came from, why it was coming there. And there's a whole entire section that can pop up on every single page of the reports that are just insightful charts to help you better understand the data. And we're so excited about that. Like that is just so cool to see that technology being placed inside a platform like this and how it's actually going to be benefiting everybody. And there's also smart charts, and there's ways to fully customize GA4 as a whole. Every single page in the report section in GA4 is fully customizable. There's a little pencil with a little star on it. You click that and you can change every single report on that page. You can have it with the filters and with the segments that you want it to have because that's what's important to you. So there's a lot of customization that can happen in the platform that you could not do in in Universal Analytics. So yes, we're kind of harping on the not exactly fun parts of GA4 and the limitations that are coming forth from it. But once we kind of get past that learning curve, both on our end and also on the client end, making sure that everyone fully understands the platform, fun. We're going to have a good time with the data that it presents. And obviously, as you have heard, Mel and I, we love to gab about GA4. We've got lots to say. So we're obviously always there to support anybody who has any questions. There are no dumb questions or bad questions when it comes to GA4. Because it's either a question that we have an answer for, or it's something that we need to find out and dive into. So obviously, 100% please do not hesitate to ask us questions. Ask us to help you guys understand it better.
Yeah, speaking of which, we do have the ability to answer questions through this webinar. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to throw them in the Q&A section. It looks very similar to a chat function, and Mel and Abby are happy to jump in and answer any questions they can while we still have some time left. So I'll give everyone about a minute or two in case they'd like to add those in. And,
you can also email. You can find us on LinkedIn too. My email is just mcoleman@panosmarketing.com. If you want to get into Reddit threads, you might see me in a Reddit thread asking questions. And this is truly, we do kind of come hat in hand. We've done a lot of work saying, hey, we don't know all the answers. We don't have all the answers, but we want to find them. So yeah, to echo Abby's point, there's really no dumb questions. A lot of them we've asked ourselves. So,
and really overall, it's not a bad platform. It's not the spawn of Satan. It's all is fine. All will be well once we really kind of get over that learning curve hump and really become comfortable with the platform itself. We're really going to see a lot of great growth from this platform itself.
And to answer, there's a question in chat regarding data visualization. There's a lot of different options for data visualization.
Yeah.
And so we like Looker Studio. That's one of the options. In all of them, you'll have to understand that the one thing to overcome is the data limitations from a quota standpoint. This is getting a little deep, but there is what we've learned as we've become data scientists here, is there is both the cloud storage and then there's the compute feature. And understanding what you can actually pull in and how you can pull that through. What really makes sense for each client is something that we do on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
So there are 3 options, but not really. There's really no limit to the options that you can do. And so it really comes down to understanding what do you need, because as that list of needs go up, that's where you have to start understanding if you need to get into data warehousing.
Diving into that a little bit more.
And then when it comes to where do you go for training, do all of Google's free classes. Mm-hmm. It's a great place to go. Bounteous is another platform that I love. That's one that I think I did like an 8-hour in-person training course there in, 4 years ago now, for Tag Manager. And it was incredible. So Bounteous is another great one. But also we do trainings too, with Sweet Abby. She'll get on and she'll walk you through the platform and help you understand. We like to train on your version of analytics. Mm-hmm. So that way you're looking at your real data, you can start to understand what it actually looks like for yourself. But Google training is free. Bounteous training is not. And then again, we're just always here to help whenever we can.
And also to add to that as well, don't hesitate to go into the Explore tabs and play around and mess around with what's in there and just try to understand the data. Obviously, trainings are very beneficial to kind of get you that basic understanding. But if you already feel like you maybe have that, just go in and play around, see what you can do and get comfortable with the platform, because that's really going to help you improve and grow in this kind of learning phase that we're in right now, is getting that hands-on experience and understanding what the platform looks like and how you have to move about it.
Yeah. And this will be our last quick question here, is we have GA4 set up and running alongside UA for our site. Outside of setting up events, are there any other beginning steps to start with prior to more in-depth training? I know for my beginning step is seeing if you can answer your own questions. So can you, like for example, if you were to say, I want to know, how is my site doing this month compared to last month? in GA4. And just kind of understanding, do I have sessions, pages, trying to like a quick site health? Can you answer that question within GA4 without needing external training? So how familiar are you in finding that information and digesting it? And you can't compare it to UA. So the way sessions are calculated in GA4 is different than how sessions are calculated in UA. So UA is not a comparison. You can't use it to say, oh, yep, no, this equals, so it's right. No, that doesn't exist, sadly, is everything is calculated differently within GA4. So just see if you can answer questions. Can you do the reporting that you did in UA within GA4? And if you find yourself more frustrated than not, or unable to answer the questions, or not being able to find it, not understanding that next level, that's when we absolutely recommend training. And that's just going to get you more familiar and more confident in your ability to work within the platform.
And I apologize for jumping in again. I know we're kind of inching on time here, but something that I did fail to mention earlier that Mel just kind of touched upon is the fact that, yes, there are two different platforms. They're fully analyzing data in a different way. You cannot compare UA and GA4 data together. It's not fair because, like Mel said, they are computed completely differently. So you might have X amount of page views on one page for a specific period of time in UA. And if you look at that same exact period of time in GA4, you are going to have a completely different number. So you have to understand, like Mel said, what are the questions you're asking yourself and what are you looking at in UA? And how can that be possibly transferred into GA4 in the general sense of what are we trying to find? What is the answer we're looking for? But I did just want to make sure that we are all aware that you cannot cross-compare universal analytics and GA4, the data associated.
And to quickly explain why, it's because we could talk about this all day, but to quickly explain why you can't compare is it's sample data. Yes. So when you're in the free version of Universal Analytics or GA4, even in ads really, it's called sample data. And that means that it's just taking a snapshot as to what's happening. If you want all of your data, you have to go to the 360 platform, which starts at a really cool $150,000 a year, plus lots of other things. Just to get access, it's $150,000 a year. If you just want a GA4 360, that's so much more affordable, $50,000 a year. That was a little bit of sarcasm. It's the reason that we're saying can't compare them. This is the best option that most marketers have. And we're going to make the best of it. And this is just really kind of the situation we're in, but we're in it together. So
beautiful.
Okay.
And I feel so blessed that you guys are part of our team here at Panos, because a lot of the difficult conversations we're having with our clients is how do we mend the gap and how do we get prepared for this big shift? So thank you both so much for answering all of the questions from our participants today. You guys have a wealth of knowledge and are going to continue to share that with the world. So again, thank you guys. Thank everyone as well for joining us today. The webinar is recorded, so we will be sharing a copy of this with people who do need it. I believe Ashley, who is our marketer, will be sharing that with everyone who has attended. And you can also feel free to reach out to any of us via email. It's our first letter of our first name and our last name. So mine would be lirish@panosmarketing.com. So you can feel free to reach out to me, Abby, or Mel if you have any questions. Or you can feel free to reach out directly to the Panos Marketing office. Our website is Panos Marketing, Panos with 2 N's.com. I just want to thank everyone again, and please enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye, guys.